Hi, I'm Eve Hayes and I'm from Vox Pop Project Management. And I want to talk to you today about high-performing individuals versus non-performing individuals in your organization and your team. So we all want to believe that we are high-performing and we expect the same from everybody else around us, but not all things are equal. So let's just talk about some of the characteristics, the obvious characteristics that one looks for in high-performing individuals. Firstly, there has to be a willingness. Willingness doesn't mean that people have ability. Sometimes there are skills issues, but willingness is a good start, but it needs to go in conjunction with ability. And attitude is the obvious one. If somebody doesn't have a good attitude, you're pretty much dead in the water. Adaptability to change. This world is moving so fast and we can barely keep up as humans. So if people are unable to be flexible, then you could be faced with some problems. But those that are definitely keepers. And the willingness to improve. That falls squarely into the space of continuous improvement, particularly in software development, the agile space. And to make sure that your products are solid and robust. And speaking of that, there's this book, Atomic Habits. I'm sure you've probably heard of it, but if you haven't, by James Clear, I highly recommend it. It's about making small incremental changes to ultimately have big changes in your own life, and that can translate into any area of your life. Strangely enough, I went back on a contract to a company after I'd read this book some years ago, and I saw that the CEO had given all of the management a copy of this book for good reason. It's a great one. Then collaboration. I go on about collaboration all the time. This is absolutely fundamental to any success of any team, and if your people can't collaborate, I wouldn't have them on my teams. And then being self-sufficient and self-organizing. I've been asked in job interviews, what is your definition of a success of a project? And it may be a career limiting move, but I say that when the team doesn't need me anymore, I feel that I've been successful, because that means that they are now in a position to self-organize. So, and communication. Communication is very obvious, but the important thing is to make sure that it's not just about dishing out the communication. It's about the person who's conveying something, to make sure that the recipients have understood exactly what you're trying to say. It's your responsibility as the communicator to make sure they've understood correctly. And then to top it off, you obviously need a strong leader. Without strong leadership, no team is really going to succeed, but it would probably organically have a leader bubbling to the top, but you need definitive leadership. And I worked for a company where I counted the C-suite people, and there were 11 in like the top management space. And I thought, literally only 3 of them are actually high performing. And one of those was the CEO. So don't think that just because people are in senior management, they're high performing. And also, hard working doesn't mean that somebody is high performing, because sometimes people work hard, but they're not actually delivering on the right things, or maybe not able to. That's like a whole different story. There's actually a guy, an influencer called Gary Vee, that you may have heard of. He says that joy is not in a 4-day week or in donuts, it's in firing dickheads. But the problem is that often the dickheads are the high performing people. So I guess you have to choose your battles. I want to tell you about an incident that happened to me on a project. So we were about to form a project, and I was told that an intern was going to be on my team. which I was all good with. And that day I happened to be walking within the open plan office, and I saw this individual literally fast asleep on his desk with his arms folded. I was horrified. I stood there and stared, and I was just having this absolute rant in my brain. I can't have this guy on my team. Anyway, I took a picture because he was obviously going to wake up soon and nobody was going to believe me that this was actually a thing. I went to HR, they came down, and he was actually still asleep. At the top of my voice, I was like, I don't want this guy on my team. And he still didn't wake up. He needed to be gently nudged awake. And you may think maybe there was something wrong. Obviously, those questions were asked, but there was nothing wrong. He was just particularly not engaged. So I asked the direct report to please utilize the probation period and get rid of him, but they didn't. Long story short, I was stuck with him and he contributed little to nothing. And the project, ironically, that I worked on was possibly the best project ever. I worked with very high-performing individuals. There was actually a senior architect who was very out of his comfort zone. He usually worked on back-end stuff. He did front-end. We worked with a team overseas in a different time zone. So there were lots of different things that had to come together. But the real success was because everybody was 100% engaged and wanting to succeed and rolled up their sleeves and did a fantastic job. But getting back to that intern, what maybe could I have done differently? It's easy to say, oh, well, it was out of my control, whatever. But if I'm honest with myself, there are things I should have maybe done or could have done. It was a long time ago. You learn things with experience. And there should have been a formal development plan that I could have formalized and driven. That's one thing. The other thing is at the beginning of a project, like we've spoken about before, there's the project charter, and I like people to sign it. He signed it, and that would have been a great opportunity. And the reason that one signs the project charter is whip that out, and hopefully by one's own integrity, you want to also deliver upon that commitment you made to the project. And there are always the financial people who have invested interest in the project. I should have spoken to them. And but anyway, those were some hard lessons learned. Not that they were hard, actually, because everybody else carried him. And I believe he stayed at that company for 5 years. Which brings me to another point. Honestly, in an organization, I really believe that when you're scaling, keep it lean, because I tell people the work is the easy part. People are the hard part. So if you've got great people, less people, you're going to get a lot further. And that is obviously all relative. The other thing is, don't keep dead wood in your team. Some people have just been there for a long time and people keep them and they feel bad. Well, they've just always been there. But it really doesn't serve the team or the person because, as human beings, we need to grow and we want to grow. Some people don't. They just take the path of least resistance. And but on the flip side, I really believe that people do want to improve themselves. So so that's really what I wanted to chat to you about today. I'm sure you guys have many stories of your own, and I'd love to hear them, and let's discuss them. Reach out anytime. Thanks.